Today, the persistence of persistence. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to my latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Today I'm joined by Mark Victor Hansen. Hi Mark.
Good to see you again, Martin. Great to be on your show as always.
Well, thanks for coming back, and it's a really interesting time to catch up with you because you're going to be talking very soon about persistence. Now, this is something which I think is really important. It's an attitude, it's a way of thinking, but it's a lot more than that too, isn't it?
Well, you know, when we did this little book called Chicken Soup for the Soul, 144 people all said, hit the road, Jack and Mark, because we don't want it. Nobody buys short stories. It's too much nicey nice. It isn't going to work. But if you persist, no one can resist. So we persisted long enough. Finally, a little itty bitty publisher took us, and now we've sold, as you know, 500 million books. So persistence is one of those great laws that everyone needs to decide what is their destiny and then persist endlessly and courageously and boldly and with vigor, as Churchill would have said.
Yeah, and you know, there are people who have great ideas, but then essentially trip up and give up on the first difficult patch. The fact is, people always will encounter resistance, will encounter people who are naysayers. But if you have an idea, if you really want to do something, keep at it.
That's right. You got to be bigger than your naysayers, because what happens is universe is always testing us to see, are you what we call, Eric Hoffer would have said, a true believer? Do you believe more in it, it's going to happen, than they believe that it's not going to happen? Because a lot of people said, well, you know, we read that little thing you wrote, Mark, about a business plan and that you're going to sell 1 billion books. Well, I'm at 500 million now, and my goal is to sell 1 billion, and I will consistently, insistently, and persistently stay after it. And right now we've got another book out that's selling robustly called Ask, the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. We've sold out a couple times and called our publisher, and I said, what are you going to do? We just talked to 10 million people and we got to have books. And he said, well, we can't do them in hardbound. It takes 8 weeks to get them back. So what are you recommending? I said, let's go to POD, print on demand. It's a brand new thing that, you know, they print them in every 6 seconds. And so now we are competing with ourselves. But, you know, I'll compete with anyone. And if you don't mind, because we're dear friends, is that I'll go one step further. The other day I'm on Amazon bestseller with 500,000 people simultaneously. And the guy starts out, his name is Mark Deverell. Mark said, Mark Victor Hansen, you are the Roger Bannister of books. Now, you know, Bannister in 1953 ran a 4-minute mile. But I said, Mark, do you know what happened the next week? He said, no idea. I said, the next week, 119 people did it. Were we physiologically any different? No. Were we any smarter? No. We had broken the belief barrier. I'm breaking the belief barrier. And he said, well, where else is that? I said, well, 2 years ago, because this is a financial show, nobody had ever done $1 trillion. And now we got 5 companies doing $1 trillion. And Apple, as you know, a couple weeks back here, just did $2 trillion. That's not spelled with a B, that's spelled with a T. $1 trillion in America is 1,000 billion. I think we're on the same numerics. If not, you're allowed to correct me anytime you want, Martin.
Yeah, and look, the point about this whole thing, and you know, I actually went to university in Oxford, and you know, Bannister was still celebrated even then. You know, that was seen as a remarkable feat, but it was more in the mind than the body. That was really the critical point. And I remember one of my senior tutors at Oxford making exactly the same point. You know, your limitations are actually in the mind, because if you actually, you know, think beyond what you think is possible, it's amazing what you can achieve. And you know, they pushed that really hard, and they kept referring back to Bannister.
Well, first of all, I didn't know you went to Oxford, so congratulations. Your Oxford and Cambridge are our Harvard and Stanford, as you know. And I've certainly visited the campus, had a lot of pals from Oxford. The point is that all limitation is in the brain. And because we're talking about money, and we're talking about, I'm coming up here to do this seminar with Pat Mesiti on unlimited riches, creating self-replenishing wealth. Most people have a low level of money consciousness. Now, I'm not beating on my parents. My dad was a lovely man and a good hard worker and a Danish baker. But, you know, you don't make any money on 5-cent rolls. And he said to myself, and I've got 3 brothers, said, boys, I want you to take over the bakery. Very nice immigrant thing to do. And I said, not me, man, Dad. I don't know what a white glove guy is, but I'm pretty sure I'm one of them. Right. And I've obviously now written 318 books. Sorry, I got to get my own numbers right. And, you know, been number 159 times in the New York Times, which is sort of the benchmark. The point is, all of us are here to create unlimited, but it's got to be unlimited in our mind before it can be unlimited in our experience, whether it's a mental, spiritual, physical, a product, a service, a dimensionality, an opportunity, or a promotion. It all, you promote yourself before you can go to the boss and get promoted. Would you agree with that, Martin?
Yes, I would. And I also think that, you know, some people, I think, might say, well, I'm too busy to be persistent.
I'm sorry, I've never heard that before. That is, by the way, there's a lot of people that are too lazy to be persistent, because to be persistent, you got to be disciplined. And like I just watched a video a couple of days ago, they got to do 10 push-ups every day, and now I'm up to 20 push-ups a day, right? And I'm 73 years young, because you should never get old. You should, and I've always exercised, but you know, I wasn't necessarily doing push-ups. So this guy made it so simple that 10 push-ups a day, you know, you might have to start with 1 and build up to 10, but that's what being insistently persistent is about. You start with something physical that you can see, and then you go to something metaphysical, because you know, you and I know metaphysics is the top of physics, right? And it's really what you went to Oxford for, which is the best thinking, because as I understand it, and you know the mythology of your university better than I ever will, but the university was created there, and universe was to study universe, not break it into biology and physics and zoology and hama. Is that pretty correct?
Well, I actually think that university, as it was originally conceived, was teaching you how to think, right? So it was actually at a meta level, right? Unfortunately, universities these days seem to have fallen into the trap of slicing up and dividing and getting very specialized, right? But I was lucky, because I did philosophy. And philosophy is about the questioning of the questioning. So, you know, why are things the way they are, and how are things connected, right? Those are the sorts of skills that I think can really help when it comes to, you know, delving a bit deeper, pushing a bit harder, and achieving your goals. But a lot of people are caught in the current state that, you know, and they are literally too busy to do anything, right? And bouncing from issue to issue to issue, never actually stand back and think about, what do I want to achieve? How do I want to achieve it? And then drive towards it. It's a mental attitude. It's a mental state. And you know, actually, philosophy helps to unclutter your mind sometimes.
But 2 issues. Number 1 is that, you know, the Bible says, as a man or woman thinketh in his or her hearts. And the heart really is determined the deeper, innermost, highermost subconscious mind, so will they be. So what you impress repetitively becomes habituated in the subconscious, then it gets expressed beautifully and wonderfully. And the second thing you said is that Socrates, who really started purportedly, if you give him the credit, all education in ancient Greece that became universities, but it was exactly what you're saying. It was all questioning the questioning, and he questioned so much that he got to drink the poison hemlock. So literally, we can jokingly say he drank himself to death. Now, somebody who doesn't know what we're talking about will go, these 2 M&Ms are having too much fun here. But what's true is that you're supposed to have fun. You're supposed to live in a spirit of joy. You're supposed to be passionately persistent to joy, into higher states of mind and better states of thinking.
And look, I actually think that this comes back to something which I call aspiration, right? So if you aspire only little goals, you're going to achieve little goals, right? Whereas if you aspire to greater things, there's a much greater chance of being actually able to achieve those greater things. So it's about setting the mind in the right direction. But once you've done that, and push and keep pushing and keep going, because persistence ultimately is the bridge between the aspiration and the execution.
Correct. And aspirational means, what do I desire? What do I want? And that's the thing that tips most people over. Most people haven't got a clear thing of what they wanted. When I went bankrupt in 1974 and I'm sleeping in front of another guy's room, you know, for 6 months actually, I kept saying, God, what is it you want from me? Otherwise I'm going to slash my wrist, because I wasn't clear what I wanted. And God did the answer back. That was the first miracle. He says, well, Mark, what do you want? And I said, well, I think I want to talk to people. And they came to me, I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that would make a life transformative difference, which I'm doing here with Pat Mesiti on Saturday, your Saturday. And what's amazing is that I went down to my roommates, talked to the three guys. I was in Hicksville, Long Island, New York. I said, you guys know anyone that's not a Broadway star, not a celebrity, not a doctor, lawyer, or famous person, and young enough I could relate to? Remember, I'm a 20-something. And they said, yeah, there's kids out there talking, and I'll just give you my coupon. I'm not going. He mesmerized the audience for 3 hours. That was his second thing. And then the third thing is I asked him to help teach me how to do the business. And of course, when he came back after he told me exactly what to do, I had 1,000 talks a year for the first 3 years. He was blown away. He couldn't believe it. But I had high aspirations. Back to what you said, my cliche is the size of your question determines the size of your result. So if you say, well, how am I going to go bankrupt like I did? You figure out how to do that. If I said, how do I become a multimillionaire, become that. If I say, how do I become a multimillionaire that becomes a billionaire, your subconscious figures it out, because anything you ask repetitively goes into deeper innermost, it goes from conscious to subconscious to superconscious, all the way out to right to infinite intelligence or God or awareness or universal awareness. And the answer has to come, but you got to be careful the kind of questions you ask, because the answer's coming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, sometimes I get the sense, and down here in Australia, the sun's shining, nice weather down here, the beach is looking pretty good. Maybe I'm not going to bother to think about this stuff. I'm maybe just going to have a good time. The point is, there are different ways of enjoying yourself, but actually the point you make is this is a joyous journey we're talking about here, right? A joyous journey of setting goals and pushing towards them and achieving them in a way that's probably even better than sitting on the beach.
Well, two issues there. Number one is that I believe, back to persistence, that you got to color code your calendar so it works for you, not against you. And for me, green days are the days I'm going to work. Yellow days are the days I clean up my mess, whether it's cleaning the garage, cleaning off my desk, doing my taxes or whatever. And then purple days are the days that are really restful and back to that beach day. And I used to live on the beach in California, and then also in Kona, Hawaii. So I'm really keen on the beach. But you've got to finish work or you can't be happy. In other words, everyone is here to serve greatly and be a contributor. In other words, I know everybody in Australia is not as keen on the Bible as I am, but in Genesis 1:28 it says, you're made in the image and likeness of God. Now, what does that mean? That means you're supposed to create, because that's all he did, contribute, that's what he did, and then be charitable, help those who can't help themselves. And that's why great shows like yours wake up people's minds so they make more money, so they have more money and time freedom, which is really the one of the many goals in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I talk about is mind space, right? And that's the concept of, well, you've got so many hours in the day, you've got so many, thought cycles, right? And it's a question of, where are you spending those thought cycles, right? Are you spending them on things that actually can take you somewhere, or actually are you spending them doing other things that are perhaps less productive? It's really quite interesting if people actually, for a day or two, actually keep a diary and just think about some of the things that they've actually been doing and where they're spending their time, because frankly, people are quite often surprised.
But the deal is exactly what you're saying. Where the attention goes, the energy flows. So you ought to diary how you're investing your time, because when the life is over, the only people that have any regrets are those who didn't fully live. And what we're saying is everybody has got a destiny. You're coded a DNA and RNA at birth with a destiny. Now, if you say, well, wait a second, I'm an engineer, I'm a garbage man, I'm a waitress, I'm a janitor, all of which are noble, good professions, a policeman, whatever. But the point is, what is it you're going to do with that time? And you're supposed to keep expanding your thinking and opportunities and aspirations. And I'll just pick on dentistry for a minute. I know the two dentists that went beyond dentistry. One saw a piece of string. Now, you've had string in your hand since you were 4 years old or 5 years old. But he put little wax on it, created a little thing called dental floss, and makes $2 billion a year with dental floss. Now, that's pretty cool. And then the other guy saw 3D printing, and he started printing teeth, and he makes $2 million a week printing teeth. So nothing wrong with whatever profession you're in, but what I'm teaching, because your show's an entrepreneurial show and what I'm going to be doing with Pat on Saturday, Masidi teaching how to get unlimited self-replenishing wealth, is that every one of you's got an industry, and a corporation, a company, or a charity. Every one of you's got some problem. And if you can solve the problem for you and fix it, that's called entrepreneurship. And then if you'll scale it, that means make it big and make a vast profit. That's your objective and an obligation as a good man or woman, no matter what your spiritual system is. That includes being an atheist, because I've been on shows with the biggest atheist in America, and he still makes a lot of money.
Yeah, fair call. And so, look, the last question, Mark, is how do people try and find that sweet spot, that sort of, that idea, that hook that effectively you build the persistence around? Because I know a lot of people really get stuck at that first step.
Well, what we're teaching in our book, Ask, the Bridge from Dream to Destiny, you got to ask yourself first, then you got to ask others, and then you got to ask God. But if you want to just go to the third one first, tonight, before you go to bed, ask yourself 400 times before you go to sleep, God, what's your destiny for me? Or whatever word you use. There's 367 words for God. It could be universal intelligence. What's your destiny for me? Infinite wisdom. What's your destiny for me? Infinite love. What's your destiny for me? Wisdom of the universe. I don't care what you use, but 400 times. And then you've got to be ready, because, as you know, Martin, in the middle of the night, God is tricky and it's slippery. So the idea comes to you and you say, I'll remember it in the morning. I just want to sleep. Not okay, not okay. You got to have a pen and paper and tell your sweetikins, hey, I listened to Mark today, and he's sort of nutso, but look at what he's accomplished. The guy sold more books than anybody, and says he's on schedule to sell 1 billion books, and he's halfway to goal. So he said the goal's going to come through. The big G is going to tell me, so I got to put it in writing instantly, and then tomorrow morning I'll wake up and write it in detail, whatever it says, because most people say, well, he said write a book. No, that didn't. What was the book about? What was the title? What was it going to be? Or what is, because everyone's got in them a great book, a great song, a great invention, a great innovation, a great business, a great company, a great relationship, a great something, but they got to cogitate, ruminate, meditate on it, all of what you're saying, contemplate it at a deep enough level that it will unfold like an ever-flowing lotus.
Exactly right. And look, that really is the point, isn't it? You sometimes will get those little sparks. And in fact, the subconscious mind does wonderful things sometimes. It puts stuff together, right? But you've got to actually make sure you listen to those connections, because, they could potentially point out something really, quite creative and quite different. But don't let the idea slide.
You can't let the idea slide, because it's like a wet, slippery fish that'll get away. And every one of us is born over-endowed with 18 billion. That's the number of brain cells I've been told you got, maybe higher. I've heard Deepak, my friend Deepak Chopra, say 5 trillion, but I don't know what the number is. But you got a lot of brain cells. They cannot come to work until, back to your thing, aspiration, consciousness imploding deeply into subconscious, so it can bloom with the answer. And what you're really saying, sub-level, is that it comes out either imaginatively or intuitively, and you've got to grasp it and keep it, and it's got to be locked in on writing. You've got to write down where you're going to go and what you're going to do and how you're going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mark, I really appreciate your time today. And just to reiterate, the seminars coming into Australia on Saturday, we'll put the details below. But folks, the message is persistence, persistence. Persistence pays.
We love persistence.
Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. And nice to catch up with you again.
It's always a delight to meet.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Martin.